Welcome to another live session. This intro seems like it's the same every single time, but obviously I'm always excited to show up for the community and be here. And as always, we'll have a lot to chat about. There's lots going on in the current economic times. And obviously we're going to answer all the questions, all the feedback, all the new information that's coming through. We got a lot of good information that came through the Slack group over the last week. And obviously, I'll always pitch to that practiceinterviews.com. Join that Slack group. It's free. People are really holding up that community. It's a beautiful thing. We have like almost 3,400 people in the real bucket Ask Me Anything, where people are coming in and giving comments. And so a great place to go. So what are we going to start with today? What do we have to talk about? So we got a few things. We're definitely going to give some Google updates today, just as the information comes in. And please, as a community, share with us any valuable data. It's going to just be super helpful to hold up the community. I don't have a lot to prompt with, so let's just go in. I'm going to do a quick pitch on my services, and then we're going to dive into the questions. And I'm going to give a couple of specific data points for you here in a minute about a couple of items that have come in. So my name is Jeff H. Sipe. If this is the first time you're here, my business is practiceinterviews.com. We do interview coaching and negotiation coaching. Just the special today for you as the audience. It's a $100 discount code on the interview mastery course. If you use the code YOU, Y-O-U, you will get a $100 discount on the course. That's just till 11:59 Pacific time today. If you like what we're doing today, smash that like button. And sorry, I bounced off there for a second. Hopefully we won't have too many internet issues today. Sorry about that. I just screen went blank. I froze there for a second. Please let me know in the comments if you're experiencing challenges seeing me or hearing me, because I want to make sure that everybody can hear the thread okay. So I might actually scroll up. Let me know if you're losing me at all or if it's really choppy, because I'm seeing a little bit of a bad connection now. I just want to make sure you can hear and see me. I do want to prompt that, obviously, I normally go live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Next week, for both the original video and the live, I'm going to be taking next week off. And I will also update that in the YouTube community just to let you know. So let's dive in. What are a couple of data points? I want to get right down to business. So what's data point number one? Data point number one is we found out that for new grad hires for basically what would be an L3 SWE, that basically we're seeing a lot of those applications being closed out, and those opportunities will be pushed to next year. So this is pretty much going with the messaging we've seen before from Google, that L3, L4 SWEs will be a little bit deprioritized, but we're definitely getting that feedback on L3s. We also got an update on UX. So we have found out that they are going to be hiring for L5 plus for UX roles, with a primary doesn't mean all those roles will be open. It will probably be on more of a one-off basis. The prompt to get the audience in today was that, this cloud over GCP, because we're still waiting to see what they're going to do with GCP. So we're still waiting on that item, and we have no updates at all. So if anybody has any GCP updates, just please let us know. They're still kind of interviewing, and I'm getting some clients interviewing for GCP, but we haven't really had any movement on any negotiations there. Okay, we're 4 minutes in, so we're already over my timeline. So let's dive right into questions. As always, I'll answer all the questions in order. So happy to get to them. I think some people know I answer them in order, and so they come in early, and that's fine. Also, no need to repeat questions. I'll get to all the questions. And then, as you know, we're a positive platform. Let's try and keep it as positive as we can. I might go a little negative on some things, but we'll try and keep it positive. And obviously, any feedback, comments, anything that you think will lift the community up is going to be great. Let's dive in. Hi, Jeff. Looking forward to the live with you. You have multiple questions for today. Okay, I'm happy to answer them. Good day, all. When in the interview process, can you ask about severance packages? I would not, Victor. I would not ask about severance packages. That's that feels strange, and it's like you're preemptively like getting ready to leave, and just depending on the person you're talking to, they might not take that great. So I wouldn't ask about severance. And I do get that it's the world we live in, but it's something that I do not recommend. Thanks for the videos. They're great. I'm also on hold with GCP Program Manager for support ops since July and no news. We're sitting tight on GCP. This, to me, I was looking at the numbers. So interesting. I was like trying to figure out, okay, well, what's the revenue percentage of GCP? And GCP is making up like 12 to 15% of the business. So I'm not really sure what the holdup is. We have gotten some note that they've pulled back on some ads hiring as well, which obviously we know is the biggest revenue generator for Google. So if we get any additional data there today, it would be great. Thanks. Hey, Jeff, what do you make of the update someone posted on blind? Prioritization is still going on some orgs, including GCP. Okay. The expectations for GCP is this process might continue well into September, even end of Q3. Zero progress on positions like AM, TAM, etc. Okay. And then it seems like G recruiters always call candidates to advise of the interview outcome, but why not email? Does that mean if they said yes on the phone, that yes can change to no after a freeze? Okay. I feel as though, based on the data we have on GCP, I'm thinking they're probably not going to have it totally together until maybe the end of September. That's seeming like the more likely scenario just based on the length of time. I can't say for sure. We have seen offers extended, and this is coming a lot from the Slack community again. We've seen offers extended where they got to that extension stage, we hit the freeze, and the position has been deprioritized. So yes, absolutely, there's a chance that they're saying yes, pre-freeze, and no at some point. So yeah, there is a possibility of that. I completed your interviews with G. Recruiter will call me with the results today. What should I ask if the call results are good? And what should I ask if the results aren't good? Okay. If the results are good, can you outline these specific next steps in the process? We just want to understand the next steps, hearing it from the recruiter's perspective. If the results aren't good, feedback. What feedback can you provide? Did I miss any of the minimum qualifications? Anything you can suggest or recommend that I should work on? So oftentimes they're not going to give that feedback. Remember, this is a legality item. You can come back and sue any of these companies if they say something that could be misconstrued. So they need to be careful, but sometimes we can get that guidance, okay? If you receive feedback from your virtual onsite 3 times, hire L4, and once lean hire L4, hire L3, what are my chances of being accepted by hiring committee? Oh, okay, so we have a hire at L4, lean hire at L4, and a hire at L3. Usually they'll default to being conservative. Hire you at an L3, and just know that the move from L3 to L4 could be pretty quick. A promotion within 1 year is not uncommon. 18 months is a little bit more common, and 2 years is very common. But the chances of being accepted by hiring committee at an L3 are very high. L4, not so much. So we'll just have to wait and see. And I remember, I have enough data here to actually give you some feedback, but it's very hard. Hiring committee can be different depending on the day, depending on the hiring committee members who are attending. And then what should happen first, team matching or hiring committee? What is more difficult, finding a team match or passing through hiring committee? I don't think that one really is more difficult than the other. Teams are also going to be a little bit more, they might be a little bit tougher because they know they're going to be able to be a little more choosy. But they're both steps of the process you need to make it through. Team match, you can control the team match. Hiring committee, you can't control that. You've either done the work and you can or can't. So I would say in that aspect, controlling team match makes it a little bit easier. And it's been more than 7 weeks since you're on site and you still haven't gotten any hiring committee feedback or team matching. Well, if it was 7 weeks ago, that's the freeze time. So nobody would have gone to hiring committee or team matching well, not nobody, but at this point, that's not uncommon. But if you haven't heard back from your recruiter, time to reach out. Hi, Jeff. What should I anchor? L3 policy solutions consultant role in Boulder. Past 3 interviews, and your recruiter said you did well on all of them and doesn't anticipate any issues in HC. However, the role is still frozen, but I'm also seeing L3 consultants receiving offers. Yes, because all these positions in prioritization are on a one-off basis. So just remember, everything's one-off. There are no rules. There's going to be total funkiness. So we just got to remember that in the process. If I'm anchoring for an L3 policy solutions consultant role in Boulder, I'm probably anchoring in the, I don't know, maybe like low to mid-low twos. So maybe something like 217, 228. I wouldn't probably go above the 230s for an anchor. The job's going to pay in the ones for sure. But you could anchor somewhere in the low twos to mid-low twos would be my recommendation. Hi, Jeff. I have the second round interview scheduled for a Google TAM. I know Google doesn't ask questions like number of golf balls in a plane, but should I be preparing for estimation questions? It's a great question. So for estimation questions, 90% of estimation questions that are asked end up with product managers. PMs are the most likely to get an estimation question, and that's just based on tons of data out there. I would say the other 10% tends to be program managers. I wouldn't expect it with the TAM. I do want you to just maybe do a little bit of preparation, but it's less likely. I'd put it in the less than 1% category. So if you get an estimation question, maybe even the 1% category, it would be pretty surprising. It's not impossible, but unlikely. Hi, Jeff, love your videos. Can I provide different comp expectation after sending the original numbers in writing to the recruiter for hiring committee review? You can. It's a tougher path, right? Because you've mentally set that anchor with them, but they come back and they say, hey, great, like you passed hiring committee, we're gonna exceed your numbers. You're gonna say, thank you so much. At the time, I didn't have the opportunity to do my research, and upon doing my research, I need to change my expectations. And so again, it's a tougher path and a tougher conversation, but you still have to do it. And for anybody out there who's ever given expectations and wants to change them, that's okay, right? Just say, look, I've had an opportunity to do my research, and your recruiter is there to advocate for you. I know oftentimes it doesn't feel that way, but they want to close the deal. Getting you as a hire is a checkbox. Don't forget, recruiting is a sales role. They have numbers that they have to achieve. So it's okay. It is going to be tougher, but I always want you to do it if you set the expectations too low to start. When my interviewer provided feedback to me, he mentioned good things briefly, like coding outstanding, communication outstanding. But when he mentioned negative things, which I believe to be more minor, he described it in many senses. Does recruiter read feedback exactly as it written by interviewers, or provide what he thinks is most useful? Does it mean that crucial coding abilities can be summarized in one word and omitted next to long paragraphs describing small issues? Like, your recruiter should not be giving you direct interview feedback. They shouldn't do it. Now, is that the perfect ideal world? Yeah, of course. Of course, I want everybody to get feedback. I had an interesting exchange with somebody on YouTube. I wouldn't give you like your scores. The giving the scores, I don't really like that as much, but I try to give you any feedback I can. I'd really be protecting the interviewers, the organization, etc. But getting any feedback is helpful, right? Take that feedback, and when you get the job, apply that feedback as it pertains to any skills that you need to work on. Take it and really see it as an opportunity to get better. But they shouldn't be reading direct feedback for you. I know that's long-winded. I hope it helps. I got feedback from my onsite that it was 4 hires and 1 leading hire for an L5 role. If I pass HC resulting in a hire, will it be a downleveling as there was no strong hire due to 1 leading hire? Sam, when I look at that, when I look at 4 hires and 1 leading hire, basically what that tells me, and I can't say what hiring committee is going to do, but it'd be unlikely that you'd get down leveled with that guidance, right? Basically, what happened is 5 interviewers are recommending that you be hired. One was just leaning, but the fact that the other 4 committed to hire is great. We see a lot of people commenting that they got strong hire feedback. I'll tell you, in my time at Google, I didn't see a ton of strong hires, right? Strong hires are definitely outliers. So they're probably going to be like, a small percentage of the scores. Strong hires might make up 3 to 5% of scores, maybe less. So not having a strong hire is fine. I also have a couple of strong internal references, L8 and L7. Yeah, it sounds like enough, right? It sounds like it's pretty good. It sounds like it's going to be positive enough for you to make it through hiring committee, especially with a couple higher level strong internal references. It all sounds good. Hiring committee can be fickle. It can be challenging. I saw packets that I thought would never get through. I saw packets that I thought were a slam dunk get rejected. So you should be feeling positive about the work you've put in. I do feel like L5 seems viable. I don't know why they would down level you with 4 hires and a lean hire. Good luck. Keep us posted. Recently interviewed for G for search specialist role on July 3rd, round July. 3 + 1 rounds interviews, however, received mail from the recruiter in August that HC had decided to not move forward with my candidacy. Okay, what's going on here? Let's see. Let's see what you say. The recruiter feedback overall was very positive. Just the structure of the answers were not up to the mark. He mentioned that other skills, including leadership and solving skills, were very good. How likely am I to receive a call again from Google in 3 months' time? Was their feedback influenced by deprioritization that followed immediately? This is strange because, I'm just trying to understand the timing of this. When did you go to HC? This is for the mail from in August. So it's did you go to HC before the freeze? In 3 months, unlikely to hear back. In 6, 9, 12 months, very, very likely. Look, I'm a sourcer, I'm a recruiter, I'm going through the system. You made it to hiring committee. You didn't make it through hiring committee. The likelihood that you get another callback, it's so high because you were really close. And I always want to recruit people and bring people back through the process who are really close. So it's a very, very high likelihood that you'll hear back. So much of it will just depend on what's going on with the current economic times. Can Google down level me to? Okay, I think we covered this before. So yeah, I think that this is probably an L3. Does having a team impact the chances of passing? I mean, yeah, it does. Because if you get team match before hiring committee, it can be really helpful in the sense that you have a statement of support from the hiring manager. They're trying to back up and validate why the interview feedback and your background support hiring you for the role. Sometimes when we go to HC before team match, it means that the packet is a real slam dunk. You really crushed it. And it's easier to get team matches when I introduce you as a hiring committee approved candidate because it's less concerning for hiring managers. I hope that helps. Hi, Jeff. Thanks for the great comment. After the second follow-up on the reprioritization status of the role I was interviewed, I was told the job is no longer available. Would it be appropriate to contact the interview hiring manager directly on LinkedIn to double check if the role will be reinstated at some point? Everything sounded promising from the first follow-up. Yeah, I mean, so, my guidance is always the same here. I really like a cadence with the recruiter, right? So the job gets deprioritized, we lose the position, and simply we say to the recruiter, I get it. It's probably not going to be available maybe till late this year, early next year. How often can I check in with you? What makes sense? I was thinking maybe once a month makes sense, once every 2 months. What's appropriate so I'm not annoying you, but I'm just keeping a pulse on whether the role might reopen based on my strong candidacy. So if you set it up and preface it that way, not how often should I reach out, set the tone. And then it makes it easier for the recruiter to say, hey, yeah, check in with me every couple months. because that reminds them that you're out there and you've set the cadence and you put it in your calendar, and it becomes a very, very easy process to follow. Hi, Kevin. Thanks for the thumbs up. Okay, so hold on. Let me see here. Sorry, I was jumping around quite a bit. I just want to make sure I'm not skipping anything. I thought my hiring package would go to HC, but now my recruiter is saying we need a team to get past HC and is looking for teams now. Nothing's changed. So basically what's happening is sometimes they'll go to HC first, sometimes they'll go to team match first, sometimes they'll change their mind and say, I wanted to go to HC first, but I'm thinking now I want more support. So nothing's changed. Okay. I had a phone call with a recruiter 3 weeks ago, and he said they are recanceling some of the roles, and he would come back to me soon. Last week I sent an email, but nothing. Any info on TSC roles in Google Ads Manager? Are they being canceled, or has anyone heard back on their application? So I can tell you, a data point that I have is I have seen other TSC roles move forward, but I think this is going to be a case-by-case basis, right? So yeah, it's just going to be so funky. So we just need to know that basically anything's possible in this funky time, and don't be surprised by anything. Them saying they're going to go to offer, them not rescinding an offer, but rescinding, taking it to that next step. So just be prepared for anything. And follow up with your recruiter again. I mean, again, if they're going over a week without contacting you back, that's just a lack of organization and really not a good skill set for a recruiter. Your TAM internship at Google Cloud got over on the 14th of August. Eligible for conversion, but never heard back from the interviewer processes. Does it take more than a month or freeze? Okay, so I followed up via Slack, but obviously anything via Slack, let's bring this back into the entire community. You have a huge advantage because you had an internship. So I would definitely reach out to your previous lead, any collaborative stakeholders that are full-time. You're going to have an opportunity to get more data. You just got to push forward a little bit and be gracious and kind in that push, but not hearing back is obviously unacceptable. So continue to push forward through it and see what you can find out, and then come back and let us know. My recruiter said that they have stopped the freeze and will be looking for teams now, but it was a week ago. Okay, nope, you just got to follow up with your recruiter again. Hi. Thanks for these live sessions. You are welcome. Okay. Can you buy G Suite domain from UAE? I don't know why you couldn't buy some form of a domain if you're in UAE. I don't see any blocker there. Messed up on the last round RRK. How long to reapply? I'm worried I'm not going to get another interview chance from them. Sorry to hear that. The RRK interview can be a lot trickier than people think. They get worried about the GCA and GNL, but the RRK is obviously a role an interview you gotta pass. So reapply. Typically, if it's reapplying for the same role, you have to wait a year, right? Now, if you find like or similar roles that are maybe different enough, you can reapply sooner, but typically, if you are going after one specific position, it's a year. What happens if I provided too much salary expectations in Google form, which is provided a hiring committee? It's maybe 10 to 20% more than the highest possible for L4 plus stocks. Does it impact my chances? Will Google provide worse offer or simply reject? No, at this point, I don't like putting the numbers in those forms, and I always recommend against it for any organization. If they say put your comp expectations, if it forces you to put a number, put 0, or just leave it blank, but you're not going to get rejected for those numbers. What is a good anchor for an L4 PTM Gtech in LA, and how much is total comp in LA versus less? LA is going to be about 10% less, 8 to 10%. Now, obviously, we all know if you live on like the west side of LA, that's as expensive as anywhere in the Bay or New York, but it's still about a 10% less. PTMs do not get paid as well as PMs. So a product tech, a PTM, I would think that I mean, I definitely want you to be anchoring into the threes for a PTM L4, and maybe we just go higher because it's a product role, and maybe we go like anchor into the mid threes. If you want to go higher, you can. There's not going to be a ton of data on PTMs. Now, obviously, product managers are making a lot, so maybe you can go higher. Maybe you could anchor into the high threes. Look at product manager data. I don't have a ton of data on PTM, so I don't want to totally misspeak, but it should pay pretty well. I hope that helps. Thoughts on leaving Google as a TVC and coming back later as a permanent employee? Yeah, you're going to have a better opportunity to come back later on. If it's not the right timing, or you found something else, or there's just nothing available because of obviously what's going on, yeah, leave as a TVC and the door will be open, especially if you did a good job there. They're going to want to revisit you. So I saw that happen all the time. People would be TVCs, they'd leave. Sometimes they'd come back as FTEs. Sometimes they'd come back as TVCs again to try and be an FTE. So lots of possibilities. I believe Sundar mentioned making the company 20% more efficient. Does this apply layoffs or further hiring freezes? Yes, so if anybody in the audience didn't see this, there was an article that came out, I don't know if it was yesterday or today, where Sundar said, hey, like we want to be 20% more efficient. Now they were talking about some efficiencies with like joining product areas. So like he referenced kind of like when YouTube and it was like YouTube and Google Music or something came together. So it could just be about efficiency in that way. Remember, Google cares a ton about their brand. So they're going to try their best to not do layoffs. I think there's still, like, we haven't really talked about it, and we can bring in some of the economic conversation today if people are interested, but there's still some stuff that's going to happen that's going to really probably hurt our economy. Obviously, what's going on in China with the real estate market. China is a huge economy, and we do rely on China for quite a bit in this country. And as that economy collapses, which is pretty much happening right now, we're going to feel the impact in the US. All the things happening with climate, which unfortunately is also happening in China as well. And obviously, we know all the terrible stuff that's happening in Pakistan. And so there's just a lot with the economic stuff, and then the climate impact of things that are going on, and then inflation. So there's a lot of reasons to believe that these hiring freezes will last longer, and that layoffs are absolutely a possibility. So we're all trying to manage through these economic times and figure out, what's going to happen, obviously. Hi, Jeff. What should be the compensation anchor for L4, L5 TAM roles in Toronto? Yeah, so in Toronto, L4, L5, I would think an L4 would be like the total comp for an L4, probably low twos. L5 is going to be mid to higher twos. So again, if we're anchoring L4, I'm probably anchoring into the 260s, 270s, L5, 320s, 330s. TAM is not a great paying role. I think we've talked about this a couple times. They will pay about 70% of what a software engineer is paying. So again, if you want to use levels.fyi, look at what software engineers are making in the Toronto market. For those levels, take the average of the last 5 to 10 offers, and it's going to be about 70% of that. That's been very, very consistent for TAMs. My recruiter informed me yesterday that they're still waiting for any form of info from leadership, and recruiters are also kept in the dark. GCP customer engineer, Singapore. Yeah, so these client-facing GCP roles are just, they're trapped. And that's why I created the visual, because, I mean, candidly, I have a number of CEs that were in the negotiation process when this freeze hit, and that like none of them have data, none of them. And that's why I created the GCP clouds, because it's just like, what is this cloud over GCP? we're hitting almost 2 months, right? Like 8 weeks of this freeze. Like, it's just hard to understand what's happening and why they can't move forward. So yeah, we're definitely in this one together. On the 30s, I'm going to prompt to my business really quickly for everybody, for you who's listening today. If you use the code YOU, you get a $100 discount on our interview mastery course. That's just till 11:59 Pacific time today. I do interview coaching. I do negotiation coaching. I go live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific and new content every other Tuesday. I will be taking next week off from everything. And then I'll be back the following week. Like and subscribe. Let's dive back in. Any advice for anchoring for total comp for remote positions? You're about 50 miles from Boston and looking for L4 PGM role. Okay. Yeah, they're probably, if you're 50 miles, they might go cost of labor for your market. So maybe you're kind of, if you're going directly west, maybe you're like Worcester area. So they're going to pay for cost of labor for like Worcester, or if you're going like north or south. It depends. But hopefully you're close enough to the Boston area where they're still going to consider Boston, because the pay in Boston's pretty good. So if I was going to anchor for like an L5 PGM in Boston, I would be hoping that you'd be making into the low threes in that market total comp year one. So I'd be definitely anchoring in the mid to mid high. So like 357, 366, something like that. Hi, Jeff. What's a good anchor? L5 product manager remote based in a non-premium area, or same for Seattle? Well, the first part, I'd really need to know the market. If I'm going to anchor for an L5 product manager in Seattle, I'm probably anchoring in the high fours. I mean, that role should pay into the low fours in year one. I mean, product's getting paid awesome right now. I would keep your anchor probably in the fours. Now, for the non-premium area, I don't know, because Seattle's a premium market, right? So let's just talk about this for a second, just for the community. So premium plus markets, there's only two, Bay and NYC. Those are our two premium plus markets. Then the premium markets are LA, San Diego, Seattle, Boston, and that's it. Because even if we brought in DC, would fit the cost of living bill, but like the cost of labor is lower. So there's only a few premium markets, but I would put Seattle in that grouping. Okay. So, you had your onsite in July, received feedback in August, fill out the hiring committee form that I have for a month as early, then had no news for a few weeks and gave up hopes that the recruitment will be done in September. Had more than 1 month, no action. Your current company gives a huge annual bonus in February. I was okay with giving it up to wait 6 months, but with the current tempo, I think it'll be 3 months and I prefer to wait. How do you politely discuss that with your recruiter to change my previous hiring package with 1 month's notice and available only in April? Okay, so let's talk about this. This isn't the worst case scenario for people in the hiring process right now. I strongly, strongly encourage you to not ask to push your start date out till April of next year. You'll probably lose the role. What you can do is you might say, I really need to reset comp expectations because we're now getting close to a large bonus that I'll be receiving shortly. And so therefore, I would really need to get more base, more equity, build in a 50K sign-on, etc. So I have had this with my negotiation clients where we're resetting expectations as we're getting closer to next year and we're getting closer to bonuses that are being paid out. So you're going to ask them to compensate it. You're not going to ask to push the start date because that's a likely loss of the job. Hey, Jeff, thank you for keeping your live sessions. Do you understand what is G's strategy, keeping the freeze for so long while still interviewing people and growing the queue of people waiting to unfreeze? Yeah, I mean, I get it, kinda, right? I understand, like, to shut down the pipeline completely would really put them in a bad position. Why it's taking so long and why decisions are so slow. I mean, this is just what I experienced when I was there. And I think I've been pretty candid with the community. This was one of the challenges of being in recruiting at Google, is just the slowness and inability to move the process quicker. So yeah, I mean, I would have made, if I was running Google, which, I mean, it's a big job that Sundar has, and obviously rolling up through Alphabet. I mean, these are big decisions. People who make big money are really smart, but I would have just drawn a line in the sand day one, said everybody who's in the offer stage, we're going to push forward with those offers. We're going to hire for X, Y, and Z, and everything else is cut. And I would have made the decisions that day, and whatever anybody else had to say, I would have said, look, I'm sticking with these decisions, because 2 months later, we could have people working, people in the business, people improving the company. And so I don't agree with the decisions that are made, but I do get that they're continuing to interview to keep the business going, just to see what happens. I'm done with all interviews and now received email from a recruiter that they're asking for detail like education gaps, career gaps. Yep. What are your chances? I can't tell you, but getting to that form means they like you. So that's good news. Leave the comp blank. Okay. 100% leave it blank. Love these Wednesday sessions, Jeff. Any idea about YouTube trust and safety? I saw someone from Blind get a verbal offer on a policy program manager in APAC. No news about US hires. There was something in the Slack community about somebody for YouTube getting an offer, but it's like been very one-off basis. Like YouTube's been super, super quiet. We haven't been hearing much of anything from YouTube. So it's just to sit and wait. YouTube's definitely going to be a one-off basis. Now, remember, I think I've mentioned this before, trust and safety is a absolutely critical role, right? And YouTube is a huge, huge moneymaker. Obviously, they make a ton of money off ads on YouTube. So I would think that that role would be prioritized, but yeah, just not sure. Holly Lee, cup of coffee. All right, for everybody who's watching, if you are interested in Amazon, Holly is the guru. But what Holly and I would probably tell everybody here is our coaching, while we've been branded by these companies we've worked at, and Holly worked at all of them, from Google to Microsoft to Amazon, she's been everywhere, is that our coaching can be applied to multiple companies. And I coach a lot of people to get into Amazon, but Holly is the guru there. If you've never checked out Holly Lee's channel, it's a great channel, highly recommended. And Holly, let's connect sometime soon. As a follow-up to the comp expectations question, what if you may have overanchored? Will they just correct it down level, or will HC deny directly? Here's the great news. It's really hard to overanchor with Google. Like, I think the famous story that I haven't shared in a while is that somebody came to me with expectations. I'm not going to name the role or anything. They asked me for $1 million a year. And then we just had a follow-up conversation to talk more about comp, and they came back and they asked for $2 million a year. Now, they had their own reasoning for why. My job was not to jump on them and say, you asked for $2 million, this is crazy. I just said, okay, can you validate why you want that amount? And then I said, okay, I'm not going to be able to get you that amount, but I will go get you as much as I possibly can. That person did not end up accepting the offer, but I didn't overreact because they asked for $2 million. I simply took it in, wanted to understand why, and then I wanted to confirm with them that I knew that that was a number that I could not obtain, but I was their advocate and I was going to go work for them. So it's really hard to overanchor with a company like a Google. If I'm told I'm between levels, is there anything I can do after the onsite to push for a hire of 2 levels? Yes, you can propose additional interviews. Your recruiter should be proposing that anyway, but you could say, hey, if I were to do 1 to 2 additional interviews, would that give me a better shot at X level or higher level? So you can get in front of it. That's basically the only thing that you can do to guarantee that you could maybe get to that next level. Hi, Jeff. I entered the recruitment process last June for strategic partner manager position in Dublin. He passed all the interviews and received a call from HR in mid-August. Okay. To tell me that the manager had selected my profile but could not move forward right away due to the hiring freeze. Told me the position was not canceled, but couldn't give me a specific date. Should I contact her for an update? If so, what should I say? Should I look for other opportunities at the company? No, just contact your recruiter and say, hey, I'm still interested and intrigued and excited about the role. Would love to see if you have any updates and how often I should be checking in with you, because again, it might just take a little while. Sorry, every time I scroll down, I lose my mind here for a second. Hi, Jeff. Do you know if G is scheduling on-sites for SWE roles at this point? Yes, they are SWEs and SWE leadership, manager and director. So probably you're going to see L5 and above. For me, like most of my SWEs, I do coach some regular SWEs, like what I call flatline SWEs, IC SWEs, but I coach a lot of Eng. I coach a lot of Eng managers and Eng directors, and so L5 and above is what I would say is probably the likely scenario right now. 81 people watching, don't be shy. Give my buddy a thumbs up for this video. It helps attract all those videos. Interviewing at Google. Thanks, Holly. Yeah, if you like what we're doing today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, I'm still coming out and trying to crush as much new content as I can. Hey, Jeff, does the new grad hiring for SWE for people graduating this winter still look bad? It doesn't look good. I mean, I just want to be candid just with my observation. I don't think it's going to be great. I just think that based on all the data and feedback, and I'm just going off of sheer data, that it's not going to be great for new grads for a little bit. And hopefully when we come into the summer of next year, I just think it'll be interesting for us all to watch what's going on with the economy and see, this is kind of like we're all going through, let's talk about it. I mean, we're all going through this second shock, right? Like we have the shock of COVID, and then like things are surprising with COVID, like in much of the world, yeah, we shut down, but economies didn't really suffer. We saw really good gains in the housing market, like especially in the US. And now we're going through this secondary funk time. So we've just been in this funky economic time that seems like it's going to we're going to have this like malaise for like a 3 to 5 year period starting with COVID. So yeah, there's just a lot to unpack. I know I'm going on some tangents today, but we're kind of all in this mental space right now. Hi, Jeff. What is the expected range for an L4, L5 TSE in Dublin? L4, I would think, year one into maybe like the 120s, 130s. L5, maybe higher, 150s, 160s. I might want you to do a little bit more research on Dublin. The good news on Dublin is that comp has come up quite a bit over the last year. And when I do my calculations in Dublin, I just calculate everything in the euro, and obviously the euro and USD are pretty close right now. So something like that. How do you know your ratings are? Hires, lean hires. If I get a leaning no hire, how would I reapply later? Sometimes recruiters will give you the ratings, sometimes they won't. Remember, I didn't, when I was there, I didn't give ratings. I would give any feedback I could, but I wouldn't give the ratings. You can always ask, what were my scores? But applying later, like a no is a no, so it doesn't really change depending on your scores. To tell me, oh, sorry, I answered that. Jump down. It would be for L5, L6 mobile roles. All right, Joe, I'm not sure. I'm just going to scroll up really quickly. Oh, yeah, it's kind of when the comments come in. So yeah, I would think, Joe, as I mentioned before, L5 and L6 would be more safe, and then anything mobile facing tends to be higher priority these days. I had the initial screening call with the recruiter for a TPM role a month ago. She told me that she was going to arrange a call with a TPM and even asked for my available days. Last week, I received an email saying that another recruiter will be taking over. Nothing since then. They never reply to my once a week friendly reminders. Keep going, David. Just keep hitting them with graciousness and kindness. And maybe you just need to remind them, you have to say, I just want to make sure, because of the recruiter transition, there was a lull. So I have other opportunities going on, or I have other things going on in my life. So I just would love an update of any sort from you, even if that's, hey, I don't have an update right now. So maybe you create that pathway for them. Because again, this is just we talk a lot about this, but one of the items that I see just in general is like an inability to communicate and communicate effectively is just it's a real challenge area for recruiters, and there needs to be more coaching around understanding how to communicate and put themselves in the candidate's shoes. So keep us posted. Hey Jeff, interviewed for SWE L3, had 4 technical rounds, strong hire, 2 hire, 1 negative feedback, maybe no hire, got hired for googliness round. What should you be expecting from HC? Hopefully a good result. Obviously having one bad interview, like, it matters, right? They're looking at the collective feedback, but it is a competitive world that you're trying to get into. So it may not be enough. We'll just have to see. If you do get hired for an L3 SWE, it would be a one-off case. I have seen some of them, but they're very, very one-off at this point. When are positions usually removed from the careers site? YouTube has been taken down over 120 positions, and you were considered for 2 or 3 of them, and they don't exist anymore. So let's just address this as a singular item. This is the putting up and taking down of job posts has gotten really funky. So I don't want to over-examine that, but from August 1st to the end of August, we saw about half the positions removed from the Google site overall. So it's definitely an indication that maybe they are deprioritizing some of the YouTube roles. Your application status moved from submitted to passed. Is this a bad sign? I'm also being considered for a couple of other roles not listed on the site. I haven't heard anything from the recruiter. Still awaiting prioritization. Yeah, at this point, I would just say follow up with the recruiter. There's really nothing else you can do. And obviously they should have communicated with you, but just follow up with them. I had my 4th round on 29th of July and got a reject email on the 9th of August. Some info on the timeline. Was the result influenced by the deprioritization or freeze? I don't know. I can't tell you. It would have been nice if you had gotten a phone call, because again, that's my expectation, is that any candidate that makes it into the phone or on-site stage should get a phone call to reject, because that way when they reject, they can get feedback on the interviewers, on the process, on themselves, and the candidate feels heard. So recruiters it's a huge misstep. Hi, Jeff. Currently waiting on L4 SWE on sites in mid-August. Recruiter said GCP prioritization is still going on. Should I ask for matches on other teams? Sure. Yeah. If you're not tied to GCP, see if there are other teams. Should I reach out to the hiring manager if I've not heard back from the recruiter for 4 weeks? Yep. This is when we go around the recruiters. At 4 weeks, we go around them. Okay. You recruiting coordinators, sourcer, hiring manager, interviewers. At some point, we need to go around the recruiter, and always be looking for that survey. Be checking your spam. They might close out your application. Just if you're in the process, make sure you check your spam, because we need to make that recruiter feel the pain. They could have been impacted by the layoff. They laid off a bunch of recruiters at Google, but contract recruiters. But yeah, they, like, when they don't get back to you for 4 weeks, they need to feel the pain, and they need to feel the pain of not creating a transition system for all these recruiters. Like, everybody should have an out of office that stays on for a month or 2 with a new point of contact. These are very, very simple systems and processes. And I could go on a long tirade, but it is kind of shocking that these big companies don't have better processes and systems in place for recruitment, because there are a few easy steps that could be implemented, especially at a company like a Google or these big tech companies, that would make everything a lot easier. How many recruiter hires for a role? I'm currently interviewing for a role at G. with another specific recruiter. However, I noticed the role has been reposted in LinkedIn with another recruiter. It should be, unless it's a generic role, it should be one recruiter with a specific role, but yeah, I can't say for sure. Okay, we'll come back with that location. What are some of the great questions to ask the Google recruiter? You have an interview with the G recruiter first thing tomorrow. I would go, we'll throw this in as a resource when we go back in timestamp. I have somebody coming in and helping me with the timestamps because I know I'm really, really behind on my live timestamps. So all the timestamps from the last bunch of lives will be updated hopefully soon. But it's technical. It's interview with a recruiter. If you just look up interview with a recruiter, then that should come up on my YouTube channel. And there are tons of great questions to ask in there. Hi, Jeff. Could you give me an idea of how long the turnaround time is currently waiting for an HC decision? SRE SE DUB L4. I can't because I'm not really sure. They pushed HC if the role has not been deprioritized. I mean, usually when in a normal time, HC should meet within a week or two. No worries. You're welcome. Okay. Hi, Jeff. After hearing about the layoffs in IT, what's your advice for those who are starting to train for cloud computing or networking? Thanks, Vincent. Yeah, for anything in the cloud space, here's what I love. There are all sorts of certifications. So go learn some maybe more generic certifications. Obviously, if you're really interested in one platform like GCP or AWS or Azure or any other platform, go learn those specifics. I also love testimonials, and all these big cloud platforms have testimonials because it's the application of it. And so the testimonials are kind of a fun way to see how small, medium, and large corporations implement cloud and what are the case studies. So the GCP testimonials page is a super fun page, and you'll never run out of those testimonials. So those are a couple of my recommendations, but building the foundation will be absolutely critical. Interview feedback from PM onsite was positive except for the analytical. Recruiter wants me to do another round. If it goes better, does the result pass to HC or? Yeah, so they'll see both pieces of feedback. So we'll comprise of both. And when you get an opportunity to do an additional interview, it has to be a hire or strong hire. Anything else is not going to be a strong enough signal. So just make sure that you go in and crush it. Also, a data point, recruiter told me that team match for product manager roles they're hiring will slow down. They only have a fifth of previously open roles post-freeze, so I should expect a delay in team matches. Okay, yeah, I'm not surprised by that. How long are HC approvals valid for? Would it be easier to get team matched once the freeze is over if you're approved? I just don't want anybody to slow down anything, right? Just go through the process. If they're going to team match you, team match you. If they're going to take you to hiring committee, take you to hiring committee. Just go through it. I mean, HC approvals depends on how long your recruiter is going to hang out in the team match stage. I mean, usually they're valid for a year, but hopefully you're not in the team match stage for that long. I hope that helps. Hey, Jeff, you had applied for 2 roles, L3, L4. Business systems analyst, got an offer for L3, but not happy with the comp. Should I tell the recruiter that I want to wait for L4 results to decide? Well, you should be negotiating that compensation. I don't know you would only be interviewing for one level, so I don't know. Maybe you can come back and tell me a little bit more, but I would just negotiate the comp. I just strongly believe it's better to jump in, dive in, get started, but negotiate as hard as you can, and then get promoted quickly as opposed to giving up the opportunity. That's just my 2 cents. Waiting on an offer from another company, and they know I'm currently waiting on a decision from G, and I feel like they keep delaying their official offer as they keep on asking for an update on my Google application. Well, my first question would be, is this Apple? Because they have played that trend with the last 2 or 3 of my negotiation clients who were negotiating with them and other companies that they would not give offers until the other company gave an offer. Whatever the company is, if it's Apple, come back and tell us. I'd love to land that one. But the reality is that when companies wait on the other company, it's totally and utterly ridiculous. G is in a hiring freeze. You have no idea when they're going to complete it. Just say, look, I'm interested in moving forward. I can't guarantee anything with Google. I can't guarantee that they're going to give me an offer. So I'd really love to move forward and start to negotiate with you and your organization. But I will tell you, I've seen this from Apple multiple times recently, and it is a terrible, terrible approach. Whoever made that organizational decision and told their recruiters to do it, it's one of the worst recruiting approaches I've seen recently. Hey, Jeff, must say your thumbnails are really amazing. Still waiting for the ads freeze to uplift. Look at my old thumbnails. They were so boring. I didn't know what to do, so I wanted to keep it. We got to keep it as light as we can, given the current economic times. And everybody who's here, like, I think I've been pretty candid. Like, my business has taken a huge hit from this freeze, from what's going on in the current economic times. Like, we're all feeling this pain. And yeah, we're still waiting on ads. I really truly believed when this started, ads and GCP, their revenue generators, but I obviously was not correct on that assumption. I'm interviewing for Google hardware and was told the freeze is slowly unpausing. I will get an update and timeline in 1 to 2 weeks, late last week. This is for a new college role. Okay. Yeah, Jen, keep us updated. New grad roles are tricky right now. And I can't guarantee that any role will or will not be hired because hardware is an important area, but keep us posted. Are there consulting services at practice interviews to get one-on-one help from you or your team to get support through the TAM and negotiations? Yep. Practiceinterviews.com. I'll prompt on those services in a second, but we have interview and negotiation coaching. I think most people know I used to have multiple coaches on the platform, but I just wanted to, I loved my coaches. They were great, but I just wanted to maintain a really high brand. And I thought, I couldn't have insight into everything that was being done by other coaches. And that's what I would say about some of these other platforms. I want you to be discerning. I like what I do is free. 99.9% of people who get my content get it for free. If you go to some of these other platforms and they have somebody who's worked at Google or Amazon or Meta or any of these companies, there's nothing to validate that just because they work there that they're good at the coaching aspect. So if you use my services or you go to another platform, look for people who have done a lot of sessions, because we only get good by doing it a lot of times. But absolutely, we help with TAMs. I've helped multiple TAMs get hired at Google. Hi, Jeff. What's a good anchor? L4 SRE SE in Dublin. I thought we answered that, but maybe we didn't. I would be anchoring in the mid-high to higher ones, but I'm not sure what that will pay. Again, levels.fyi, do the formula. I think that's going to be the most helpful. I've had negotiation clients in Dublin, but it's been a little bit. So I did notice, the one thing I will say is I did notice a nice upward trend in 2022 in what Dublin was paying for total comp. Thank you very much. Your videos are great. Lives are even better. Okay. That's good feedback. Do you have the knowledge on what is an anchor for an L4 SWE outside of USA and Poland? So the negotiation video, the negotiation strategy that I just mentioned, I actually used Warsaw as an example. So there is actually data on levels.fyi for what L4 SWEs are paying in Warsaw. There's some really good data there. So definitely use levels.fyi. And then remember, whatever that number is, go 20% higher, 30% higher. Take the last 5 SWEs that were hired at L4 in Warsaw, average it out, and then take that number, times it times 100 times 1.3, and then that's probably going to be your anchor, okay? But there is some good data on SWEs in Warsaw. My recruiter keeps telling me feedback is extremely positive, but won't give me any specifics. When I ask for advice, she says, glean from what you did last time in your interviews. Is that bad? No, again, I just, it's important that they're giving you feedback, but not all the time are they going to give you super good feedback. But if it's extremely positive, that sounds great. If you have more interviews and they're saying it's positive, just keep doing the same things you're doing. Okay, we're going to start to catch up here. This is kind of, we hit the hour mark and then things get a little bit more rapid. I'll pick up the pace just a little bit. But essentially, practiceinterviews.com, interview and negotiation coaching today. If you type in the code YOU, Y-O-U, you, the audience, will get $100 off our interview mastery course that's available just till 11:59 Pacific time today. And obviously, I've been giving some discounts during these live sessions. I will not be live next week, so this will be the first discount, or the only discount on the course until a couple weeks from now, if you want to take advantage of that. Again, the coupon code is YOU. If you like what we're doing today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, I go live every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Pacific, and new content every other Tuesday. I will be taking next week off for both. I'm at HC and was told Cloud doesn't know which roles we'll be hiring for yet. It may not be until next week or the week after that I have an update for you. Been hearing that for a while. Yeah, so you're just going to have to hang in there, David. This is the messaging. GCP, it's like next week. Let's hope for September. That's what I'm hoping for at this point. Hey, Jeff, thanks for these live sessions. When do I bring up the competing offer? Once I get comp numbers from the recruiter or before? I want you to introduce the idea that you have a competing offer, but we don't want to introduce the numbers yet. With competing offers, we have to be very strategic. I don't always like leading with them unless we have all the data to say, wow, this competing is way more than I'm going to get paid in this role. So really introduce the information. You can even introduce the company, but say, hey, I'm holding off on the numbers for now. Because sometimes if those numbers aren't great, we're introducing numbers and they're like, wow, look at how much better we are. So introduce the data point, but not the numbers yet. You're welcome. Further detail on remote L4 PM anchor question, non-premium market equals St. Louis. Okay, so St. Louis is, I would not be anchoring in the high fours in St. Louis. Maybe in the like 420s, 430s, maybe up into the 440s if you want to get aggressive. My best guess is that, yeah, maybe like 420s, 430s. It will probably pay in the low threes, maybe up into the mid threes, something like that. Thanks so much. It's informative. Thanks for being here. Interesting question. How much longer can we expect virtual onsites for? I don't want to misspeak. It's like one Google office that went on site, like true on site. I might be making that up. It might have been a different company. I can't remember for sure. I don't know if ever. I think that virtual onsites are just going to be the thing moving forward. It's more convenient for everybody. With people in this hybrid environment, it's hard to get everybody in the office the same day. Now, you could have a situation like it used to be. A lot of times when people would come in for onsites at Google, like they wouldn't have all face-to-faces. Maybe 3 out of the 5 were face-to-face, maybe 4 out of the 5, but there'd almost always in the slate be one person who was via video because they were in another location, couldn't make it in. So I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever go back to face-to-face on-sites again, which is kind of something crazy to think about. Does it help to put people as persons you know in Google? How much does it really affect the application? It affects the application if they have a strong understanding of the work and the quality of your work. Just mentioning somebody who doesn't really know your work, it's not going to be as helpful. They're not going to provide as good of an internal reference. If you don't have incredibly strong internal references, if you are not 100% guaranteed that that person will say great things about you, don't do it. I had people provide references while I was at Google that were bad. And clearly they didn't have a good pulse on that person, and that immediately will stop the process, okay? So I do have a video on this. I definitely recommend that video because I cover a ton of questions, but I want to know everything from how many other people are in the process, how long has the position been open, what types of questions do they ask, what's the order of the interviews. There's a ton of questions. I think in the YouTube description of that video, just check my page, just type in like recruiter, and you'll get that like initial recruiter interview, and there's tons and tons of questions in there. For Meta, got not this time after loop interview, how to stay in touch with the recruiters so they remember me. Thank you, Jeff. Best content out there. Thank you so much for that. Just ask for the cadence. Say, hey, I just want to say how much I appreciate working with you. I love to build a cadence with you. Can I check in with you once a month, once a quarter? What's an appropriate amount of time where I'm checking in and reminding you that I'm out there, but I'm not annoying you? Like, we want to be really candid and bring in that empathetic approach, because they'll be much more likely to say, yeah, just check in once a quarter, and then put it in your calendar and make sure you follow up exactly once every quarter. Recruiter called me back and said, I've heard the team wants to move forward. I will talk with comp and get numbers back to you. I have not given any number to them. When he gives that first number, should I start negotiating then? Should I be reasonable with the negotiation given the freeze? Okay, so there really have not seen any difference in the total comp when they anchor first or when we anchor first. I like to go first because it's a control thing for me. I like to be in control of the negotiation. But when they go first, fine. Now we have the numbers. You should not negotiate on the spot. I think what you should do is, the best thing is to take those numbers, take a look and say, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's a little below expectations. I'd like to think about it and get back to you. And whatever they say, well, what are you thinking? What are your numbers? Blah, blah, blah. I'm really happy to go ahead and schedule a call with you tomorrow, but I'm analytical. I'm a thinker. I just want to think through it, and let's chat again tomorrow. We can schedule that time today, because then you're working with real data, and you can a free template, practiceinterviews.com. Use that offer template. You can run the numbers, take those numbers in, and come back with a really strong anchor and think about, okay, whatever those numbers I'm going to provide, maybe they'll meet me in the middle. But it's not a bad thing, okay? This is good that they're leading. You'll have some data to work with. Hey, Jeff, your live sessions are a silver lining. Google has already cut close to 45% of the open roles since the freeze was announced. When would the freeze freeze? Yeah, so thank you so much for all the data you're providing in the Slack community. Everybody, practiceinterviews.com, Slack sign up. It's free, and there's all sorts of data being provided by people in there. And yeah, 45%. I called it 50% earlier just for ease, but we started at like 4,800 roles and got down to like 2,600 roles or something on their careers page. That was the drop in August. It just kind of went like this. As you're waiting your offer letter from GCP, the HR mentioned that they're reprioritizing hiring for the rest of the year and will get back to me with updates soon. It's been more than a month with no communication and no response to my phone calls. This is for India. Okay. Yeah, so keep following up and just keep the tone. Phone calls, I would, if it's all been phone, maybe go to email now. Once a week, check in. We do not have any updates on GCP. So once a week check in for GCP is going to be good. Okay. Keep us posted. Hi, Jeff. What does it mean if your profile is high priority? Is the recruiter more likely to reach out, or is that similar to a referral? I don't know. I've never really heard that languaging, high priority, but Alan, I think your scenario was L3 SWE that got deprioritized, I believe. So you just want to build that cadence and probably be checking in with them once a month, once every 2 months. One more question. I asked my recruiter what level seems like it would be based on the feedback. He said, I think most probably L4, but just maybe L5, but likely L4. Does that mean I'm a high L4? Means you're an L4. Yeah, I mean, like the high, low, like when it comes down to it, like comp isn't looking at a high or a low. Now, there can be some little pushes that happen internally for more prioritized roles, but mostly comp is just looking at levels. So I don't like to put grades within a level. It's going to be an L4. A recruiter informed me that one of my on-site interviews was recorded. Feedback that was higher L4. Okay, does the fact that this one was recorded, well, they legally need to, that's a legality issue. If any interview is going to be recorded, you need to know that beforehand. They should not be recording anything without your permission. That's actually illegal. You did sign an NDA, but it doesn't mean they should be announcing to you that it was recorded. I don't understand this feedback at all. HC is not going to watch back that recorded interview. They're just not going to have the time. So I don't know. It's really, yeah, it's really weird. I don't know. I would just maybe follow up and say, how often are they recording interviews? Like, why did this happen? Why wasn't I informed of this? But I really maybe don't even say those things because I just want you to have a soft tone, but that's really weird. Hi, Jeff. You signed your offer with Google last Friday. So I want to thank you for your content. You're amazing. Couldn't have done it without your videos. It's a dream company. So thanks again. Oh, I remember the lives. Does anybody remember the lives just 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago, when we used to get 10 or 15 of these a session when things were normal? Congrats. Thank you so much for being here. Like I always say, I'm a very small part of the journey. I give some advice. You can apply some of that advice, but it's all about prep and practice. So congrats. Thanks so much for letting us know. Thanks for that. Just got confirmation that I was recommended to move forward with L5 product manager role at G, but with the freeze, I may not be matched to a team until 2023. Any chances this unfreezes in 2022? Yeah, Sam, I can't say for sure. I just don't know. This would be, so confirmation L5. Okay, team match, yeah. So unless they find like a random one-off team that you have expertise for, but yeah, it's unlikely this year would be my best guess. Based on, we've gotten a few data points on product being pretty slow, so probably not this year. Just a word of gratitude for you doing these sessions, Jeff. It's been truly therapeutic attending these sessions every Wednesday. Obviously, you need a break, but we'll miss this community next week. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I don't take a ton of time off, and I do try to. If I could show this community all the funky places that I've gone live from, because I usually will, but just based on where I'm going to be. Yeah, I'm not going to go live next week, but thank you so much for the positive feedback. Last question, if you have the time, what do you know about strategic cloud engineer roles in GCP professional services? Our compensation's 0.75 of SWE. Yeah, strategic cloud engineer, 0.75 sounds about right. Maybe up to 0.8, but 0.75 sounds good. Curious to know how many people actually decline an offer from G from your experience. It's a good question. I would say that the data is probably very role specific, right? So like if I look and cast a wide net of my time at Google, like I didn't have a lot of program managers or technical program managers decline. It was a very, very small number. I also very early on in my career, I had some fun stories, but this is the most interesting part, and we can talk about this maybe another time, but when you're so passionate and can influence so much, I did turn a few declines around for program managers because I just truly believe that they were giving up a huge opportunity. So not a ton of declines in program management. Software engineers, the percentage of declines is going to be higher. And especially at that time that I was hiring software engineers, Facebook was just out paying for software engineers, and I lost to them multiple times. And then for the more like cloud customer engineering focused roles, not a lot of declines there either. I mean, I think the total number of offers given that are declined at Google, it's probably not a high percentage. It's definitely single digits. And now it could be 6, 7, 8%. But in my total time, I think I think it was probably like, of all the offers I made, maybe we're talking like 7%, something like that is what I experienced. And I think that would probably be consistent. But the SWEs, the software engineers, definitely enhanced that number. Just 1 year made up more than half of all my declines. TSE role, do you ask for coding? Sorry, my internet looks like it popped out. So I hope you could hear me. When you hire for TSE role, ask for coding experience, and will they be giving a code interview? That interview, the TSE coding interview, has been dropped from the process, which is really good because TSEs are not coding. Okay, so it's really a great step. They always wanted TSEs to pass it, and that made passing the interviews just so tough. But I heard that they dropped that from the process. By the way, just as a data point, I got a yes on the day they announced the freeze. Was waiting until last week and then got final approval. I'm on cloud 9. Solutions consultant. Okay, solutions consultant, Gtech, Dublin. So that's probably just a very one-off need. So that's awesome. Hi, Jeff. Great videos, really useful. I'm currently in the interview process, but didn't go well in my RRK interview. Is it done for me? I don't know. You can always sometimes get a second chance in these interviews. Sometimes we're harsher on ourselves. Sometimes interviewers can be hard to read, but we're just going to have to wait and see. Thanks, Jeff. This is for a GCP role in India. You've been emailing once a week, but no response. Keep going. Keep emailing. Poke, 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 then be gracious and kind in all those pokes. All right, everybody, we have our rock star AVP here, Tina. Tina, thank you so much for helping everybody out in our Slack community. If you are going after AVP roles or you just want somebody who's internal at Google and willing to share great advice, make sure you join our Slack community. Awesome. Thanks, everybody, for throwing out these congrats. Amazing. Going over a candidacy, what are the potential red flags for HC? Conversely, what motivates the HC for a positive decision? You want me to elaborate? Okay, so well, potential red flags are pretty uncommon. Like red flags are typically, like a red flag to me is the wrong use of words. That's really the red flags. Motivates HC is good interview feedback. Yeah, of course they're looking at your resume and looking to see that confirms the interviewers are picking you at the right level, etc. But it's really the interview feedback. That's the most important piece. I did well in the technical interview, but average in the hiring manager. See if you can still, sorry for the internet challenges. I hope you can still hear and see me. I'm just going to go over this again. I did well in a technical interview, but did average in the hiring manager round. What would be my chance of getting selected? So I can't say, but you just want to stay in touch with your recruiter. If you haven't heard back for a week, follow up. Offer review is just typically you're going to offer review when they're skipping HC. It means your packet's a little bit more clear cut, but they still love having those checks and balances. That's all it is. Hi, Jeff. Curious if you know the interview slate looks like for people analyst roles at G. Yeah, people analyst should be pretty straightforward. It should be GCA, RRK, and G and L. That's what I saw in my time there. Absolutely ask your recruiter to confirm, but you should have those 3 interviews. And it's typically only 3. There could be a 4th in there, but definitely ask your recruiter. I wasn't told anything about HC, but finished team match and hiring manager remains very interested. I was told preparing my packet for offer review. I know YouTube G doesn't do HC for some roles. That's correct, for some roles. So if it was a clean cut case, they're just going to take you to offer review, which sounds really, really positive. Okay, everyone, we've hit the end of the comments. I'm going to go into wrap up, and then if any additional comments come in, I appreciate it. I just want to apologize. I'm still adjusting to my new office, and I've had some Wi-Fi challenges in this office, and so I have to speak to management again about what's going on there. So thanks for sticking with me as the screen went dark a few times during our session. I will be off next week. If you want to really get your questions answered, join the Slack community. I'll try and hop in there a couple times while I'm off. If you use the discount code, coupon code U, for you, the audience, YOU, you get $100 off of our interview mastery course just till the end of today, 11:59 Pacific time today. I do interview coaching and negotiation coaching. I'm going to be off. I won't take clients till next Saturday and Sunday. So if you want to hop on there and grab those spots, you can. Our Slack group, it's free. Our free resources on our website are free. We got a ton of free stuff out there, and obviously 270-ish YouTube videos for you. So I really hope it was helpful today. Thank you so much for being here. I'm starting a new job next week, and you have 2 team match interviews lined up. If it's necessary for me to mention my new job or just answer the questions like you're at your old job. We're not really trying to hide that we've taken on a new opportunity, but we're not really trying to share that data either, right? I wouldn't actively bring it up. I would just answer the questions, just really try to be forward thinking, excitement about the role, the opportunity, etc. Thank you, everyone, again, so much for being here. I'll be back in a couple weeks. Thank you.